Hi there, thank you for joining me to chat about this latest episode of Gold Rush, Season 14, Episode 15. If you're a fan of the show, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and also let me know your thoughts on the episode in the comments. So at the start of the episode, we are 2 months into the season. We're told that Parker has already brought in 3,400 ounces, and we see where Mitch is having a meeting with Parker to talk about the struggle that he's having with personnel and trying to keep up with their productivity goals. And he wants to be able to move people around so they can operate pretty efficiently and stay on target. So in his conversation with Parker, he mentions potentially moving somebody around, or was it Parker who mentioned that it's easier to find a truck driver versus a loader operator. So their plan is to move one of the drivers that they have to the loader, and then maybe if they need to, they can hire more drivers. So they thought of moving Sandy from driving the truck to the loaders. She has to the loader. She had worked on smaller wash plants before, but she says she doesn't want to be a truck driver forever. She seems excited at the prospect of running Lucifer, and so they're going to give her a try to work on that. On her first day, she talks about how fast-paced it is. She's a little stressed out. She's also having issues with her loader, because she's saying that the armrest keeps hitting the key or something like that. That's causing her vehicle to stall. And she was also told that loader stalls a lot. So she was getting kind of frustrated as well. Now, Lucifer runs pretty fast, eats up a lot of dirt, and so because she keeps stalling out, ultimately she wasn't able to keep it fed, and so we see where it kind of ran dry. And so with all the pressure of it being so fast-paced, she's frustrated. She started having a panic attack, and so she calls desperately out to be switched out. And we see where the crew is pretty empathetic towards her and wants to go over and make sure she's okay. And she started crying, and so we hear where the producer is, helping her to do breathing exercises so she can calm down. And so Tyson took Sandy for a little drive so she can calm down and relax, which is really nice. And we saw where Evan was going to take over the plant. Later in the episode, we see where Sandy returns to the rock truck. She's taking a break from the wash plant. She says that she has been struggling with her mental health since she was 11, and she goes into a little bit of depth as to what's going on with her. She talks about how she has been diagnosed with anxiety, borderline personality disorder, and ADHD. And this is a heavy list of things to be dealing with. So she seems to be, doing pretty well considering all the stuff that she has going on. She mentioned that she tried to hide it, but Parker was a bit mad at her for that. But ultimately, they know about the issues that she's having, and she says how Parker has been supportive and understanding. And she's just happy being in a camp with people like this who are supportive of her and giving her a chance and allowing her to do what she loves. So, I was glad to see that, the working in a field or an environment where, you're working with mostly men. I was worried that maybe they would see her as being too emotional, because anxiety is a real thing, and some people don't really take it seriously. So I was happy to see that they were empathetic and trying to do their best to be supportive of her. And so she was really happy with that. Later on in the episode, which seems to be the next day, we see where Sandy calls Tyson and asks if she can get back on the loader. She wants to give it another try. Both Tyson and Mitch feels like there's no way to be comfortable on it outside of just doing it. So they give her a chance to get back in there. She's feeling much better, much more confident, and handling it pretty well. As she's going on throughout her day, the lower feeder conveyor belt stopped working, and Sandy noticed that something was off or something wasn't right, and so she ran to the wash plant to turn it off. And so she was like, "What did I do wrong?" She thought she did something wrong, but it really wasn't her fault. She's told that due to the cold weather, the lower conveyor belt shut down. It's kind of temperamental. So they went to reboot everything and she got back to work. So she's very happy with the new role and the challenge. And she says, she loves being in a loader versus a truck. So happy to see that she was able to get over her fear and her anxiety and try something new. And she seems to be doing well from what we see in the episode. At the weigh-in for the Parker crew, they've had their best week so far. Running Lucifer Big Red, they brought in a whopping 611.3 ounces, and we're told that this is worth over $1.2 million. So their total for the season is 4,018.95 ounces. And so everyone is happy and they feel confident that they will be able to possibly surpass their season's goal. We see towards the end of their segment that, Parker was like, I'm tired. And Dumont gave him a hug and told him to go get something to eat. So that was really nice. He seems to be a father figure. And I noticed that Dumont always, tries to see the positive side. He always has something, positive to say or try to show the bright side of the situation, which is really nice. He seems to be one of the, although most of the crew is pretty positive, but it's nice to have, a little father figure at work too, just to, be there for you and notice when you kind of need encouragement. So that was nice to see. At Paradise Hill, they continue to have trauma issues, and we're told that they hadn't brought in any gold in the last week. They had a water pump that broke down last week, and they had a mechanic that quit. So, they're kind of just trying to do what they can to keep things going. Tony's going to swap out a water pump that got messed up last week with a used one that we're told is 20 years old. So, yeah, that is pretty old for a replacement part. But anyway, they fire things up, turn on the water, and Kevin is ready for dirt to be, started, get things going again. And they have an issue with a conveyor belt that was off center, and so they had to shut things down after 10 scoops. So apparently Kevin had done a rush job. At least this is what Mike is saying. I think that's his name. And so the conveyor belt wasn't level, so they had to do a rig job on that. Instead of having to do a whole production with fixing this, they had to rig things up where they cut one of the columns completely off, and then they loaded steel plates under it until it's level, and then they're going to weld the plates to the column, and that way they can have it level and to be able to be up and running again. Later on in the episode, they finally get the trommel fixed, and they're back in business running at Paradise Hill, and they are bringing in their first gold on this trommel. So this week, after running for 3 days, they brought in 85.94 ounces, which we're told is worth $170,000. They are still well behind their goal. So what else could go wrong? So I missed a few episodes due to the Christmas break. So I don't know if this crew was introduced before, but in this episode, it seems to be a new introduction where we meet Bryce and Gage and their father, Brian McCaughan, at Eureka Creek. I know I've heard of at Eureka before. I've heard of this crew briefly in the past, but I don't know if this is the first episode that they're on this season or not. But anyway, they said that they're looking for cuts, which are, I guess they call hot spots, that have a high concentration of gold. And they've had a good run at Eureka for the last 3 years, but they're running out of hot spots. So last week, we have a flashback showing that Brian had a little chat with Parker and kind of hinted at potentially wanting to lease land from him once they run out of their hot spots at Eureka. And Parker had told him maybe. So we'll see if anything materializes from that. Brian's wife runs the gold room, and she talks about the multiple businesses that they've operated over the years. She mentions that they're opposites, but they've worked together pretty well. They're hoping for 1,500 ounces for the season, but so far, they've only brought in 481 ounces. This week, they're also having trommel issues as well. Their trommel stopped spinning as they were going, having it running. So it wasn't immediately clear as to what the issue was. But once they stopped everything and putts around with it. Brian realized that they had a grease issue and that the drive wheels were spinning on the drums. And so in order to have some kind of production coming in and so they didn't have to shut down completely, he decided to run the trommel at half speed, which is kind of frustrating because that thing can go so much faster. Later on in the episode, Brian has an idea to burn the grease off instead of shutting down the whole thing and cleaning it. Sure enough, he sets the trommel on fire, which is a weird idea, and it was kind of cool too because in the video we see where it's just a ring of fire around the whole thing, and this was done. I don't know why it was done at night, so we show where it's dark outside and all you see is just a ring of fire, which is just a crazy idea. But sure enough, he was able to sufficiently burn off the grease that was causing the problem and get back to running at full speed. So in this episode, at their weigh-in, they brought in 126 ounces, which we're told is worth over $250,000. And so they're still far behind their goal. And after they did their weigh-in, they had a little chat about plans to make adjustments to be able to meet their goal. This business is definitely not for the faint of heart. It seems to be always issues. Anyway, I think that's all for this episode. Let me know your thoughts. Like, comment, and subscribe.